With Tell Me Everything by Elizabeth Strout, I had quite an interesting reading experience. I started the novel around Christmas last year in 2024, and I finished it early on the morning of January 2, which makes it my first book in 2025. Yippee! Since I had read My Name is Lucy Barton, or William and Lucy by the Sea earlier, I already knew a bunch of the characters that we are meeting in this novel. Tell Me Everything. Well, Lucy Barton, the writer who grew up in Amgwash, who is in her mid-60s now, is living together with her ex-husband William, and they are in a place called Crosby in Maine, where William still talks a lot about potatoes and parasites, while Lucy gets to meet Olive Kitteridge, another main character of the Elizabeth Strout Maine universe. Olivia is now in her early 90s and lives in a home for the elderly, and she's been taken care of there. The link between them is a guy named Bob Burgess. Lucy's good friend, the guy who is the husband of Margaret, a pastor. Bob is a local solicitor, and every Saturday he takes a long walk together with his friend Lucy, where they talk about what happens in the world, what happens in their lives, and in the lives of their loved ones. And secretly, Bob smokes 2 cigarettes. Margaret, his wife, still thinks that he has quit for good. Only Lucy knows that he is still smoking and that he has a little secret, that he keeps away from his wife. Bob brings Lucy to Olive Kitteridge, and the two women's relationship starts in that book with Olive telling Lucy a story. The Strout term of unrecorded lives is mentioned here for the first time. Most people's lives are unrecorded. Your life, my life, and their interesting and compelling life stories get lost if they are not told. So Olive tells Lucy stories of people that she met or she knew during her long life. Another character in the book is Bob's brother Jim, who works as a corporate lawyer in New York City. Makes a lot more money than Bob does, of course. And when Bob and Jim were little or small, their father died in a tragic accident for which Bob believes he is guilty. Bob has lived 60 years believing that he killed his father. Imagine the feeling of guilt that Bob Burgess must have felt all these decades. And then there is Matt Beach, a 58-year-old man who lived with his mom, I think Diana, who suddenly vanishes and is later found dead in a car in a quarry, and the police suspects that Matt might have killed his mother. Bob Burgess is Matt's defense. For the first time at least, what I know, Elizabeth Strout bakes in a criminal case in her books. But forget it, this is not a thriller. Many people die actually in the stories that Strout lets Olive and Lucy tell each other, because then Lucy will also tell Olive stories, but also in the universe of characters that live in Crosby, Maine. Lucy's and William's daughters are only mentioned when Lucy speaks about them to Bob. They have no direct role, no direct appearance in this novel. And I thought in the beginning, after I finished this novel, that this novel is basically about old and older people like me, and that there's a lot of death in it. But that's what older and old people do more than younger people do, right? Dying, I mean. And when I finished the novel, I wanted to give it like a 3 stars out of 5. I never give so many stars. Shortly after midnight on January 2, before watching another episode of Slow Horses, a British TV show on Apple TV after Mick Herron's novels, I got to read them, I thought that Tell Me Everything is one of the weaker novels of Elizabeth Strout, and I wasn't so satisfied. I liked it, but I know she can do better. And I also thought that all the death and grief and pain might be a sign that Strout wants to finish the series. Well, Elizabeth Strout narrates almost casually with an incredible, beautiful elegance. And then this happened, she says. It is extremely easy to follow. It seems so casual, but it is so full of wisdom and knowledge about what we all do living our lives. My former literature professor in Aachen, Germany, Alan J. Hansen, he was from America, another not to use her, said that we should always look in literature what it tells us about the human condition. At one point, on one of these walks with Bob, Lucy takes up the question about the meaning of life. And Bob is astonished and surprised that a 65-year-old intellectual can ask such a question. Bob and Lucy are best friends. They are BFFs. They tell each other everything. Well, not really everything. Quote, from the novel. But even if you marry someone later in life, no one knows who another person is. And that is terrifying. You know how you said you were terrified? As far as I'm concerned, everyone should be. I mean, every so often, a couple has a fight and things get sad, and it really scares them both profoundly. And yet, in a heartbeat, they pretend that fight never happened because they can't proceed otherwise. They can't proceed with what they just learned. And I understand that. I do. Lucy nodded, still looking at the river. What I'm trying to say, Bob, is that people just live their lives with no real knowledge of anybody. Like that woman who emailed me this morning and might be filled with envy, but I don't know if she is, Lucy said, looking at him now. My point is that every person on this earth is so complicated, Bob. We are all so complicated, and we match up for a moment, quote unquote. And thinking about the lives that we live, you and you and you and I, and your loved ones and my loved ones, I thought that Strout is really reporting about the human condition. She really is touching something deep inside all of us. We do not know how other people react. We can always make our assumptions of all the experience and all the knowledge we have of other people, and sometimes we are right. We don't know what even our closest really carry around with them in their heads, in their brains, what kind of problems, what kind of situations they have, the feelings, the experiences, the words, and the stories and events. Tell me everything, says Lucy, under a walk with Bob in this novel, and whoosh, here we have the title of the novel. But will Bob tell her everything? Will Lucy tell him everything? This book will resonate for a long time with me and also with you once you read it, once you start thinking about some of the topics that it takes up, the deep human condition. And also, talking to a good friend later after I finished the book, we discovered that both of us know so many stories of unrecorded lives in our families. Stories that would be worth telling to the world, telling to each other, instead of getting lost in the cruel hands of time. Tell Me Everything is another 4.5-star read by Elizabeth Strout. I really sort of pushed it up, playing in the Lucy Barton universe. I start liking it more each day. See you soon. Bye. I have already finished the second book. The review is coming soon. Bye-bye.